Ryan from, what is this town in North Carolina? Boys Creek? Is that what we think, Bradley? Is that what we think, Jesse? Well, yeah, whatever. Boys Creek in North Carolina. Well, Ryan from beautiful North Carolina asked this question. What's the most overlooked story in college football so far this season? It's the transfer portal. But the transfer portal is a big story, but I'm talking about a very specific part of the transfer portal and how it's just changed the sport. And it's almost one of those things that's been happening right in front of your face. Like it's an overlooked story, but it's in plain sight. Look at how rapidly these programs have figured out evaluation in the portal. Because like when portal season comes, you'll go to on3.com and you'll look at the portal rankings. And they'll have the available players who have gone in the portal. We all pay attention to that. And you'll have some of them who go somewhere and they shine. And then you'll have others who will go somewhere and then you don't hear from them. And it's just good evaluation versus bad evaluation. All right. The hit rates this last cycle have been insane. So I'm showing you right now on the screen, if you're listening on podcast, this is On3's portal rankings from this past cycle. Carson Beck was the #1 overall player available. David Bailey was in there. John Mateer was in there. Nico Iamaleava, just, pour one out. That's its own set of circumstances. But as you can see, there are a lot of names there, specifically at Oregon, that are making big impacts. But Texas Tech, just if you look at the team rankings over at On3, Texas Tech, LSU, Ole Miss, Oregon, Miami, Missouri. Those were the top 6 teams. Those are all playoff contenders right now. And LSU's issues are not on the defensive side of the ball, where they completely overhauled things and did a great job over there. But look at Oregon. Just to give you an example, not of the fact that they're using the portal, that's not the big story. The big story is the hit rate. The big story is how these teams are fundamentally changing their trajectories in a given season like that. So Oregon goes and adds 11 guys from the portal. They got 3 offensive line starters. Did you watch them at Penn State the other night? Okay, they go on the road. Jesse, how many false starts? Like 2? Something like that? And they go on the road, and they weren't dominant. It took them a while, but they ended up winning the game. You're not supposed to be able to do that. You're adding portal kids. You're not supposed to be able to do that. In fact, that was part of the case for Penn State. And not only do they add 3 offensive linemen from the portal, like it's one thing to add them for depth. They added 3 starters on the offensive line. They got multiple starting DBs from the portal. They got a key tight end. Mekhi Hughes, the tailback, is the one people thought kind of highly of, and not a bad player, but he was not a guy that was going to come in there and be a star, like Ahmad Hardy at Missouri, for example, which is its own story, by the way. But Oregon could win the national title this year, for all we know. And the reason I'm mentioning it so emphatically, like I almost get worked up about it, is because there's this very antiquated way of thinking that it's lesser than to go to the portal to get talent. And it's a big risk of, diluting your culture. Hey, did you watch Oregon the other night? Does it seem like they're coming loose at the seams at all? Does it seem like they're a little rough around the edges culturally? Because it really didn't feel that way to me. It felt like they went into State College and threw 98 under the chin of James Franklin and his team. No problem. That, and then there's Texas Tech. Texas Tech added almost twice as many guys as Oregon. So maybe you go for quality here. Well, Texas Tech needed both. They needed quality. They needed quantity. So Texas Tech goes and adds 21 guys from the portal. We counted earlier today. 13 of those guys have already played 100-plus snaps this year. Another one got hurt, or he was well on his way. And then several others are providing depth. Like there are a couple of other ones who have played over 50-plus snaps. And again, not a whisper of culture issue. I keep mentioning that because I got Clemson over here talking about how we gotta stay very rigid and we gotta adhere to our way of doing things, and we can't bend, not even a little bit. And the insinuation is there's a right way and a wrong way, or what they would say is there's the Clemson way. And it frustrates me so much because I know why they think what they think, and I think they're wrong. And the case studies are everywhere. Okay, Oregon immediately went to the portal and fortified a national championship contending roster. Texas Tech went to the portal, brought in wholesale changes. Like they just imported a new defensive line. They go to Utah, quarterback gets hurt, doesn't matter. We're going to pull away anyway. Texas Tech is now the overwhelming favorite to win the Big 12. They're the best team in the Big 12 right now. They're the only team I've looked at just from a pure talent profile standpoint in the Big 12 and said, if that team makes the playoff, they could actually win some games in the playoff because they've got players that good. 6 of the top 10 players on their defense are transfers. They had the number 1 portal class in the On3 rankings. And again, I remember we were doing show prep about a month ago. It would have been about a month and a half ago because it was like 2 weeks to go until kickoff. And it was a Sunday afternoon. We were just talking to Joey McGuire, friend of the program. And he was explaining in as vivid a detail as he could what the vibe was like around there. And I remember he told us then, and you have since seen it borne out. He said, I know people are going to think that since we got so many portal kids, it's just a bunch of mercenaries here and it's a bunch of individuals and no team. He said, I swear to you, I've never had a better dynamic than I have right now. I don't know how to explain it if you're not here. I don't know how to explain it to people who, have grown up knowing college football one way and you're just supposed to get all your talent from high school and otherwise it's going to be really risky. I don't know how to explain it. I'm just telling you, we've got an incredible culture. Cohesion is great here. Now, that doesn't guarantee we're going to win games, but I remember him telling me that in August. And I am sharing that with you because now you see it. They got Houston this weekend, by the way, or I think it may be a Friday game. But LSU, we'll get back to the video 1 second. Do me one quick favor. Look down. Make sure you're subscribed. Most of you are. If you're not, please do so. It's the way we keep the channel free, we keep the videos coming, and we get to do college football year-round as God intended. All right, as promised, back to the video. I was very critical of LSU the other night, not their defense. They've gone from 81st in the country to 59th in the country to now 11th in the country in total defense. They took 18 kids out of the portal this last year. I'll tell you what they didn't do. They didn't go get a right tackle. That was kind of the thinking around there. We got to address this defense, and they did. Austin Thomas may be the best general manager in the country. He's one of them, if not the. And over the past 2 cycles, they have done an incredible job of saving that defense, getting the players and getting the coaches. So credit where it's due to LSU. They went and got game-changing coaches. They've gotten game-changing talent, and their struggles this year have nothing to do with the defensive side of the ball. They just flat out, they did not go get offensive line help. They banked on the fact that they could develop right tackle. They have not. And you've also got a hurt quarterback, and you can't run the ball as a result, okay? That's not that defense's fault. So it's a little case study, a little individual case study there at LSU. But also Texas A&M, Texas A&M is another example. They looked at their quarterback, Marcel Reed. They evaluated him. They defined him, his strengths and weaknesses, and they decided we need to be more explosive. We've got to have a better vertical pass threat because he can do it. We don't have the players here. So they went and got Mario Craver, and they went and got Casey Concepcion. And both of them are studs. You watched the Notre Dame game? Did you ever think in your life this time a year ago, boy, A&M, if they need to go on the road and score 40, throwing the ball, they'll be able to do it against a national title contender. No, you didn't. Now you do. Because the portal, just like that, can change the fortunes of a team. Miami was terrible in their secondary last year. Horrible. Miami is one of the best teams in the country right now. They are now top 25 in passing defense. And they've only got one returning starter in that secondary from last year. Elsewhere, they brought in an entirely new secondary and a new coordinator. And voila. Now, the question with them and all these teams is, as you get deeper into the season, does it sustain itself? But there's also, it sounds good here. If you're just listening to this and you know nothing about the portal, you would think, oh, everyone should use the portal. Oh, no, it's very risky. It's very risky. You still, in an ideal world, would love to just build strictly through high school. None of these places look and say, yeah, we just want to live in the portal forever. They're just not dumb enough. They're not ignorant or obtuse enough to say we're never going to use the portal. But it does have its downsides. For instance, at Auburn right now, they had to nail quarterback, and they didn't. And they are suffering and are going to continue to suffer as a result of the fact that Jackson Arnold's not the right guy. Their offensive line situation is a mess. At Nebraska, we were up there a couple of weeks ago. Everyone thought that Elijah Pritchett, they went and got him to transfer from Alabama. They thought that that was going to be an answer for them at one of the tackle spots. It wasn't. And Michigan caved them all afternoon because they didn't nail that. So it is not without its risks. But I'm telling you, that's why I'm pointing out evaluation. Okay, Pritchett was a poor evaluation. He was never going to be a game changer. He is definitely not worth the money Nebraska paid him. Jackson Arnold, ditto at Auburn. But go ask Oregon, as they were flying home from that game in State College, Isaiah World or Pregnon or these guys that we got on the offensive line. I mean, that is the difference in the futures of a coaching staff, the future of front office, the future of the players themselves, the future of the other guys who were already on the team. And I just love to know, I do know because I'm around Oregon enough, but I'd love for everyone else to listen to how the other guys in that locker room feel because those guys came in. You think everyone's standing in their respective corners, the guys that got recruited to Oregon out of high school, and they're over there staring at the guys who portaled in? No, they're all wearing the same helmet on Saturday, fighting for the same thing on Saturday. Are they getting paid money, aren't they, Josh? Yeah, they are. Can you pick out the ones who are and aren't being paid big money? Pop on that Oregon film. Pop on that Texas Tech Utah film. Which of those Texas Tech players were exhibiting selfish tendencies in that pull-away win? Did anybody see that? I haven't noticed that. So, look, I was resistant to a lot of this change. Truth be told, I still prefer the old school way. I love what recruiting used to be. I loved knowing that if a guy committed to Tennessee out of high school, pretty decent chance he's going to be there 4 years. It made me care about the recruiting process on the front end a whole lot more. It made National Signing Day my Christmas, essentially. So, yeah, I miss it, but I can't go back. I can't control it. Most of these coaches, truth be told, they'd love to do that as well. But there's a difference in living in a fairy tale world and living in the real world. And I think the biggest story right now is some guys have embraced the change and thrived because of it. Like Dan Lanning's life has changed because of the portal. That doesn't mean they don't recruit their tails off, but it does mean that there's this entirely new mechanism here that if we've got holes on our roster, we don't have to bubblegum and paperclip our way through a season. If we can pony up, if we got an organizational structure, our donor class, our administrative class, they're willing to play ball with us, we don't have to just go patchwork. We can cement one of those holes closed with a future first-round NFL draft pick. It's there. You can either choose to use it or you can get beaten because someone else used it. Those are really the only two options right now.